If you want to hit big bombs like this, keep watching. Boom, baby. We're going to look at hitting bombs with the driver, how to use the GRFI system. Obviously you can make your homemade version if you need to. What I've done for this video is I've picked a couple of exercises out and stretches too, which I feel are extremely valuable for you to get the most out of your driver. So you recognise how you're using the ground, how the body's moving to use the ground, letting that speed that you're creating transfer through to the club to get that extra club head speed, and when you get that good strike, that ball speed, it's going to give you that distance. It's not always the strongest person who can throw the ball the furthest. In fact, often it's just the person who's the most mobile, agile, and has that speed, agility and quickness. So we're going to look at how we can tap into that with our ranges of motion. I'm going to put the driver to one side. We'll save that, the big dog, for a second. What we're going to do is we're going to use a rotating disc. We're going to look at how we can get maximum movement from the shoulders and the hips, because it's this combination that's really going to help create that sequence and the firing of the sequence, the speed to the sequence. So first I'm going to work on right hip, left shoulder. So it works contralaterally. So we put the rotational disc under the right foot, we take our left arm, place it horizontally against a wall or a door frame, take your normal golf stance, and then we're going to rotate the foot inwardly, so internal rotation, and we're going to rotate the chest, the rib cage, into the left shoulder. And you're going to feel a stretch. You're going to feel a stretch through the lats, through the shoulder complex, and the hip. This is what we should be feeling. Keeping the knees in flexion. We want to keep that right knee in flexion, rotate that internally. Just comfortably, as you're doing that, just rotate your chest into the arm. Once we've done that, we can switch over. So now, flat wrist, so you can use the wrist to get a little bit of pressure against that wall or door frame. And now you're going to rotate this internally and rotate into this shoulder. And this is working the posterior chains, the contralateral chains at the back. This is the back of the body we're working on. We're also going to look at the front of the body. So to do this, we're going to use the rotational disc under the right foot, and then just put the left arm against the wall. What we've got now is essentially a chest stretch, pectoral stretch, front arm line into the right hip. Slightly wider stance, knees flexed, rotate this, lean forward to get the chest stretch. What you can also do here is you can extend this knee, and that's going to give you more hip rotation. Use the chest, rotate the rib cage away from the hand. That's going to give us that stretch here. Keep it in flexion, we're just going to rotate, so we get an external rotation of this hip and a stretch across the chest here, across the torso into the hip. We're opening up that shoulder, we're opening up the hips, and it's the opposite for the posterior chain. It's an internal rotation and an adduction. This is moving across the body here. We're moving into the arm and rotating internally with the hip, and these are going to be essential for the golf swing. Just got to make sure we do both sides. So for me now, I'm going to put the rotational disc under the left foot, right arm against the wall, and rotate this way. So once you've done those stretches, you can get the GRFI board, or if you've got a teeter-totter board, that's fine as well. Just find that tipping point on the board, so the midpoint of the foot is in the middle of the board, and then what we're going to do is just start to push the board that way and twist this disc, open this hip up. What we're actually doing is allowing this leg to extend. We're not potentially going there in a golf swing, we're just stretching the threshold. This is threshold training for the nervous system, being comfortable with that threshold, and then we can operate functionally within that threshold, but maybe use a little bit more range than we're used to using, or different combinations of planes of motion. The body's being driven through the ground reaction forces we're creating, the inertia of the club and our reaction to this. There's a natural tensioning through the system. So we're just extending and rotating. Then we can move across. Now the left side. So you can start to appreciate, for this speed, this will create a pivoting torque too. But this extension is going to enable me to move in a way that will recruit these ground reaction forces in the most optimal way. Now we're in a great place to be able to transfer that speed through to the upper body. Now, if you've got a homemade version, these are all magnetic and it's set up with the system in mind. I can place these on here Now they're secure. At home, if you're placing rotation discs on a rocking or teeter-totter board, then you need to secure them firmly. I'm afraid we can't be liable for any accidents that you have at home, okay guys? So these are only suggestions, okay? There is a disclaimer in the video. So we're going to step on the board. This is going to really show up any blind spots in our movement, in our coordination. So we're going to start on the lead side. So for me, left, I'm going to twist my feet to the left. To tip the board, we use flexion, but I've not twisted the feet yet. The feet are still pointing over here. To rotate the discs, we stand up, and then to tip the board in the opposite direction, we go back into flexion. So there's going to be a pelvic shift. So now we've got the hip joint outside of the base of support. So if I was to drop a plumb line from here, it would be outside my base of support. So we've got the body, the nervous system, starting to get comfortable with moving segments outside the base of support. That's not to say this is going to happen in the golf swing, it's just that we're going to operate more functionally within these ranges then. We're essentially, it's like a toddler making themselves really heavy when you can't pick them up off the supermarket floor and they're just crying and they just make themselves heavy. You're trying to pick them up, they're just using their body mass. It's relaxed, there's the tension in. It's not under high tension. We can move much quicker when the tension in is less. I can drop a lot quicker than if I'm trying to use my body in a more powerful way. The actual power is coming from speed, which is just letting yourself fall, let your body mass free fall, centre of mass free falls. And notice my feet haven't rotated yet. So if you think of a clock face, my feet are at 2 o'clock from where I'm stood, and they stay at 2 o'clock as I drop. Now I'm going to stand up to twist them, and they might go to say 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock. Now I'm going to rock the board back into flexion, feet still at 10 o'clock. Now I'm going to stand up, feet twist to 2 o'clock. So now we've got extension assisting the rotation. That extension is us using the ground, accessing that vertical force to fire that rotation through the body. Then we can start to become more fluid with it. You can see the upper body is really just reacting. We're not driving it with the upper body. If you could become proficient at this goes a long way to tapping in to those ground reaction forces, to sequence the body, to get that speed to the club and hit those bombs. So now let's have a go and see if it works. Let's see if we can tap in to these powerful extensions and rotations. So let's get to work with the big dog and let it eat. We've got the driver, we've got the big stick, so now we can start to play around with that movement we've been exploring. Allow ourselves to extend and rotate. This is going to help tap in to those functional movement patterns, which are going to help increase our range with our hands. The hand path increases. Allow leverage, allow the wrist to hinge, but not at the cost of losing grip. We're not compromising our grip. Stomping the feet, starting to get comfortable and prepare the body. We're priming the system. Ready, using the ground. This is shifting pressure. This is managing centre of mass. Waggle the golf club. Let this lever system react. There's an intent here. We're going to be hitting this ball hard. We're not trying to hit this soft. Just swinging in the air. Allowing yourself to stand up, rotate, feel that freedom to the motion and feel that load. That happens very, very quickly. It's a step, unload, but as this club's travelling up and we're letting it freewheel, we're letting the club rotate this way, we're going into the floor. We're already loading. We're in the next step. So the club's going this way and we're loading. And when you're comfortable, you go. And I'm really happy with that one. Still going. Bit of a draw. But I know I can get better. Stomping, waggling, priming the system ready with the intention behind the movement we're about to make, but also the golf shot that we're reacting to. We've got to commit to that ball flight. We've got to be ready to follow through and look for that ball flight before we even see it. And let the club swing freely and react. Oof. And get that rocket ball flight. That was really happy with that one. Good strong flight, bit of draw. Don't know where that one came from. But there was intention behind it, commitment. And the more we do that, the more we're stacking the odds in our favour of hitting that bomb every time.